right. Welcome, guys, to Minnesota Made. I'm sitting here at Aroplax in Monticello, Minnesota, with a father-son dynamic duo, a fourth-generation company. And across from me, I got a Thomas Schoen and a Paul Schoen. Now, Thomas, you are the director of operations.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And Paul, you're in the sales side of things.
Yes.
Yes. So the short time that we've already met, one of the things that I find most interesting about your business is the fact that 4 generations, man. What's it like working with Dad?
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Be truthful.
And then I'll ask you the same question, right?
You know, it's good because you get to see, you know, you get to see the progression of the business and the family, you know, together and how that's changed.
Yeah.
Get to see where my dad and my uncle started to where we are today. Then that gives me, a good vision of where we are today and where we can go in the future.
Yeah.
That's what's exciting to me, and get to bring it up another level.
So I have the reverse going on, right? So my mom was working at a factory in Monticello. She's always had these factory type jobs, right? And her company got bought out by another company out on the East Coast, and they had the option of moving out there and keeping their employment, but of course nobody did. And she was job hunting, and high school graduate, but with no real skill set outside of a factory type worker. So I took the plunge, hired her, stuck her on a computer, man. Right? Never been on a computer, and that was a challenge, but things are going good now. She's been working with me since 2008, but it's a reverse role. It's rather than the parent kind of telling the child what to do. Now the child is having to tell my mom what to do.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, it's been a great experience. We have a really close relationship. So, and you worked for your dad also when
Right.
you came into the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're going to be a little more honest on what that was like, and a little more, maybe a little, not you're dishonest, but a little more forthright what that was like coming in working with Dad. Was it? I don't know. You're from a different generation too.
Yeah, I'm from a different generation.
A little more hardcore.
Work was really ingrained into us. I mean, it was, if your name was shown, you had to work 120% harder than anybody else.
That meant something.
It did.
Yeah.
And hopefully, these guys got some of that. I think they did. Thomas is a hard worker.
Yeah,
But,
sounds like it. 2 degrees.
No.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I worked for my dad, and my dad and uncle ran the company for a number of years. So there was another party, just like my brother and I run it.
Yeah.
My uncle didn't have any kids involved in the business, but Steve and I were involved in the business from my dad's side.
Okay.
So we did every job in this place. I mean, you grow up doing everything. So
what were those early days like when you came on board? I'm like,
crazy.
Number of employees, things you were doing.
Yeah, number of employees. We probably had 24 employees, and we ran 2 shifts.
Okay.
First shift and a partial second shift.
Yeah.
But then as time went on, Steve and I got more involved in the business. I was a tool maker. I was a mold maker.
So you were right down on production floor.
Right. So I was a mold maker, not a very good mold maker. So I got into production, into processing and running the machines because, again, we were fairly short-handed and I was very reliable. So, you kind of tend to lean on your family members.
Because they know they're going to get it done. And how old were you at the time when you started?
Well, I started when I started driving. Because we lived in the suburbs, and the business was in Minneapolis. So when I got 16, I was able to drive down and work part-time after school.
Sure.
But I started full-time in 1980.
Okay.
So it's been,
41
years
Yeah.
or 45 years, when I actually started. So
Sure.
But I figure at age 20, I started, and been doing it ever since.
So was it your grandpa that started the business?
Right. My grandfather started in 1943.
And I mean, was he alive when you were a little boy? Did you have any
Yeah.
kind of relationship with him? What can you tell me about your grandfather?
Yeah, Grandpa Ed,
Grandpa
or
Ed.
Grandpa Sean. His first name was Ed. There's a tradition too on naming our children too, but I named after him.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a putzer, or a very mechanical guy. He was a machinist, so he had a farm up in St. Joe, Minnesota, and we'd go up there for weekends. And he had a dairy farm, and he'd always be doing stuff. But he was uh, an entrepreneur, but he really liked to build things, design things, and that was his passion. So
And then what? He's just like, I'm pretty good at this, so I'm gonna open up Aroplax and give it a go.
So he opened it in '43, and then he retired in '67. And basically, when my dad and uncle, he felt my dad and uncle were capable, then he retired, and Don and Jerry, my dad was Jerry, and Don took the business and started running it.
And that was back in '43.
Well, '43 he started it.
Okay.
In '67 is when my dad and uncle ran.
Okay. So when he started it, what was the main base of the business? Plastics weren't around.
Right. So yeah, he was basically a machinist. I mean, he supported the war effort. Machining parts for the government and developing whatever the government needed. Everybody in the country pitched in. So that was how he started. Used his talents to support the country.
Yeah. So he went from machinist making parts for the military. Somehow that transitioned into plastics, which is your main focus now.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
When did that transition occur, and how did that occur?
So in '43 there weren't any plastics. So when plastics came about in the mid '50s, then he got involved in thermoset plastics, one-time use plastics.
Oh.
So we molded parts in thermoset plastics, and then as the world of plastics developed and thermoplastics came about, where we could reuse the plastic, you could mold a part, grind it up, and reuse the polymer.
Yeah.
He got involved in that. So I think he saw the vision, or maybe he had a vision, but he stayed with plastics, and we have progressed ever since. As plastics have progressed, we have progressed too. So we learned along the way with the chemists and all the processors, and of course we were a tool shop, a machine shop. So we built all of our own tools. There weren't mold builders because nobody was doing it. So we built our own tools. We still have some tools here that were built, back in the '50s.
Yeah. And 16-year-old driving to and from work, working part-time, starting off working on the floor, right? And production type, would you say you're a mold maker?
Well, at the time at 16, I was a machinist. So I was running production machines, turret lathes, machining centers, gang drill presses, whatever needed to be done.
Okay.
And then once I graduated high school, then I went to the VOTEC and got a 2-year degree in mold building.
Okay.
And once that was done, then I went full-time working for Aroplax as a mold builder.
Okay. And then that transitioned into where you are now, more in the sales department.
Yeah, it's a long journey, but yeah, it
40-some
transitioned. I would say I was probably a mold maker for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And again, I wasn't a very good mold maker. Thomas will attest to this. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, or I like to have things done my way.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do things my way. So I was frustrated that I couldn't make parts or make molds as well as I wanted to.
Okay.
And I got very frustrated. So I got into running the presses and processing molds and learning about plastics, and then learning more about how plastics affect molds, or vice versa, how a mold can affect the way plastic flows.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your day-to-day today, what you're doing?
Day-to-day today.
You personally?
Yeah, right now I'm director of sales, so I'm making a lot of calls to our customers, providing, maybe trying to develop new business with a lot of family-owned companies.
Oh, sure.
We deal with a lot of family-owned companies. But and work really hand in hand with Matt Sable. And Matt Sable, he came right out of Dunwoody, came to work for us as a tool maker. And he ran our tool room for, probably 30 years, I would assume. Probably the last 5 years or so, he's been mostly doing design and doing all the quoting now.
Okay.
So he is really our right-hand man. Him and I, we go back and forth on how parts should be designed or how molds should be designed. So if you saw Matt, he was a strapping young man with a full set of hair, and he's no longer have hair, and he's got a pouch on him, and
No longer strapping.
no longer strapping, but he's a good old boy from Iowa, so we have lots of good
Iowa
conversations back and forth.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, Thomas, Director of Operations. You have an engineering degree.
Yep.
And an MBA.
Yep.
And what did you start off 16 years old working part-time at the company here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably 14. During the summers, I would work in secondary operations, which is kind of the finishing or assembly area. So
Okay.
running a drill press or trimming parts or putting stickers on. And then that pretty much progressed every summer through high school and college. Did almost every job on the production floor, and then when I got into the later years of my engineering degree, I started working with the process engineers and really started learning that in conjunction with my degree, understanding how plastics work, and then learning how they process. It really kind of married my knowledge together of the interactions between the two.
Okay.
And that's been really beneficial for me. I think for the business as well, just to have that understanding, to be able to talk to the material suppliers and also to our production people of, okay, this is how we need to do things and this is why, or understanding a different resin and how we need to process it accordingly. So.
And what's the engineering degree that you have again?
It's called Composite Materials Engineering
Composite Materials
from Winona
Engineering.
State. Yep.
Sounds boring, dude. Boring.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, he had an emphasis on injection molding. So
Yeah. So I mean, we literally learned about the plastics, and then when you add fibers, what that does mechanically, and we kind of joked we didn't really have time to party because we had our nose in a textbook, and
Yeah, you're like a regular Einstein.
it was fun. It was a small class. I think we had like 30 people that graduated.
Winona.
So Winona State.
So, little boy, a lot of times they dream about growing up and being a police officer or a fireman. Were you always like, man, plastics engineering,
Yeah.
Aroplax? Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, I mean, I guess for the longest time, I always wanted to be an architect. I was always drawing houses. I was always building houses out of cardboard and stuff. And then I don't know, it's probably in somewhere in high school, I think my dad, he said, well, what are you going to do?
the smell of plastics.
The smell of plastic, yeah. He said, what are you going to do? We need somebody to take over Aroplax and run it. I said, well, I mean,
This is back in high school?
This was, I don't know, 10th grade or something.
Okay.
Maybe 9th
Planting the
grade.
seed?
So then we looked at, a couple different schools and found Winona and thought, let's
Good
do
fit.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, what makes Aroplax little, I don't know, unique or different from, say, any old plastics manufacturer down the street that you kind of pride yourselves on? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think what makes us unique is you're dealing with owners on a day-to-day basis, and we are knowledgeable owners.
Yeah.
We've done every job in this place. We know plastics, we know molding or mold building.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of sets us apart. And I'm one of the owners, I'm calling on the customers. So
Yeah.
we've got a sales force that sets appointments up, but it's my job to go in there and educate them about what Aroplax is capable of doing. And with Thomas's crew and the changes we've made lately, we have a lot more tools in our tool chests than we've had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of companies are really wanting a one-stop shop to where they can build a long-term relationship with management that is going to be there for a
Yeah.
long time. And we're straight shooters. So what you see is what you get. Maybe not always pleasant, but it is what it is. But we're straightforward with our customers. There's no sense in hiding anything. We say what needs to be said, whether you want to hear it or not. It's what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And we stand behind our word, and we stand behind how we run our business. So we're very, since basically Thomas has been involved in the role, we started EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. So it really helps us analyze our company internally. And then we set goals, weekly goals, quarterly goals, yearly, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year. So
Has that been helpful?
very helpful. Yeah, I think
it's kind of giving everybody, the vision of, okay, where are we going, and then the path of how do we get there. We may not know how we're going to get there to hit our 10-year goal, but we know what we need to do this year. We know what we need to do in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then we break it down to every quarter of what needs to happen so we can accomplish that goal.
What was this? EOS? Is that what
Yeah, Entrepreneur Operating System. It's been
Interesting.
around for a while. It's changed the way our business runs.
Okay.
It makes everybody accountable. I mean, everybody in the company is in a weekly meeting to discuss what needs to be done. What are your goals? What do you need to have done this week? Did you get them done, or did you not get them done? And then you problem solve as a group.
Nice.
So every person in the company has
Yeah.
that meeting. Some have two or three meetings. Well, 2 meetings a week.
Yep.
Maximum 2 meetings. So I'm in a management group. Thomas is in the management group. We meet Wednesday afternoons, and then I have a sales meeting, which we meet Wednesday morning.
Nice.
So, and they're usually an hour and a half long meeting.
And it helps create that vision. That's what you're saying. And some accountability. Right?
Very much accountability, and it gives everybody vision on what the direction is
So
on a
what-
weekly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis.
Yeah. Direction. Let's talk about that.
Direction.
Yeah. What is the direction?
Well, the direction is third generation continuing the business as a fourth generation, and hopefully, continue on from there. Hopefully,
Yeah.
so
You got a 5th generation in the works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's got two.
at home and
Yeah,
one
two.
more coming. So
2 at home and 1 on the way.
yeah, but yeah, it's really. I mean, we've been doing EOS for 3 years now, and really the purpose of it was, to solidify how the company is run, so that when the day comes where Paul and Steve, retire, it gives me a way to be able to fill that void systematically without, getting overwhelmed, because we put structure in behind, so that the business can sustain itself and be successful, even with, their 45 times 2 years experience gone, so that was really the main driver. And I mean, we've just seen benefits in so many areas because of it. Like, going back to what you asked, how does Aroplax stand out from the guy down the road? One of the things that we identified through EOS is our core values, so how we speak, act, treat each other. What is our culture that we have here? What is the expectation of our employees? Treating each other, treating our customers. So there's 3 core values that we've identified. The first is going above and beyond. So maybe it's not necessarily my job, but we know it needs to get done. We just take action and make it happen, right?
Yeah.
We're one team. We're Aroplax. We're not departments,
Sure.
And that's really created a lot of continuity throughout the business too.
Yes.
Continuous improvement. So this one, we're always asking, how can we make it better? Whether it's, new equipment, which Paul and Steve have invested, year over year into new equipment, making us more efficient, up to date in terms of automation. But then also, how do we make ourselves better? How do we develop our employees? How do we make sure that they're developing professionally or, through their skill sets? And then lastly, just treating others with respect. There's nothing more important than having a respectful conversation, a way of going about it,
Right.
And that's internally, externally, with the community, So, I mean, that really sets us apart too, because we hire people to those we reward people to those, and if we need to, we will fire people to those core values.
Yeah.
You know, so we're
It
all
means
in this
something.
together. You know,
Yeah.
there's power in that. So
And that's probably been one of my strengths is to set examples of how not to do things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Thomas has very calmly
I seen you nodding.
convinced me that we need to change how that's done. So again,
just how we approach certain
yeah,
situations.
I kind of get fiery once in a while. So,
But it's all good.
it's all good.
Yeah. Well, good. Thomas, thinking back to what would it be, great grandpa Ed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Fourth generation. Dad and uncle might be retiring soon. Does that stress you out? I mean, does that keep you up at night, or you feel like, no, man, I got this?
You
know?
can't wait. Yeah.
I mean, some days yes, some days no. You know?
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
No, it is, but it's exciting to me because I love making things better. I love solving problems, you know, and I've been able to do it on a smaller scale. Now I can do it on the largest scale, right, within the company, and really take us to the next level, right? When my dad and Steve got the business, they started running it. They've transformed it, you know, from that point to today.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm, you know, we're in a much better spot than when they had the business, just the way things have progressed. Now I get to take it even farther, which is exciting. So yeah, it's a lot of stress, but it's that excitement and that opportunity outweighs it,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I get it.
it keeps me up at night, you know. There's definitely things
Those
I gotta
moments,
figure
yeah.
out, you
Right.
know, but it'll
Yeah.
work. It'll happen.
Keeps me up at night too, but it's usually for a different reason. Usually my bladder's full.
Oh.
Then I start thinking about all the things that have to happen.
Yeah,
I can't go back to sleep.
Yeah,
But
gotcha. Okay, so small machine shop in, does it say St. Joe? Is that where you guys started? Or your
Well-
grandpa had started?
my grandpa had a farm up in St. Joe. We
Okay.
started in Minneapolis.
Oh, in Minneapolis,
Yeah,
okay.
right off Broadway, 4th and Broadway Avenue was our first building. So
Okay.
that was in 43, and then 67 we moved south of Bassett Creek off of Penn Avenue
Oh, okay.
between Highway 55 and Highway 12, right on Penn Avenue, was the old Burmashade building.
Hmm.
We moved into there in 67, and then in 93. So 43 to 67 is, I don't know, 25 years
Mm-hmm.
roughly. And then the Burmashade building, we were in there 25 years. And then we moved here in 93. So we're saying every 25 years we get a new building. Well, we've been in this building 28 years, and I don't think we're moving. This building or this property is large enough. We're 60,000 square foot. We can go to 150,000. So we got plenty of room to expand.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, does he want to?
Well, I want to expand that parking lot, man. It was full. It was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, yeah,
I've been asking.
that's been one of that'll be discussed tomorrow at our management meeting. Yeah.
So you're not machining parts for the military anymore. What are some of the things you guys are producing out there?
Wow, we have a wide variety of a customer base. So we're a job shop. We service all kinds of different industries: agricultural, customer products,
Consumer products.
consumer products,
Some performing arts stuff. You know, chairs, music stands.
some medical, a lot of,
Well,
OEM parts.
yeah, OEM parts. You know, if it's outdoor, you know, enclosures for different, you know, electronics, or even just, you know, handheld electronic enclosures or cases, things like that. So
Wow.
Some products for all the healthcare. I mean, the company in Chaska make the devices if you have a broken neck or
Oh, yeah.
back, the halos
Oh,
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that. Have for probably 35 years. That was one of Steve's first accounts that he got years ago.
Okay.
So, but yeah, a lot of agricultural products.
Yeah, we're diverse.
Very
strategically,
diverse.
You know,
Yeah.
So with the downturn of COVID and
Yeah, how that
everything, I
affects
mean,
you.
we had one customer that really struggled with it. I mean, basically their business went half of what they typically do. But then we have other customers that were in RV products supplied to the RV industry.
Yeah.
Well, they
Boom.
tripled.
Yeah.
So we've
See.
been fortunate to have a wide base, which
Right.
then, again, we're still able to meet our annual goals, even though we set them, before this all happens. We're still on track to follow our plan.
Oh, good.
So
So
we've
I
been
feel good.
pretty fortunate. Yeah. Now, if we can get material, that's the biggest issue, is trying to find enough material.
Okay.
So
if a potential client is listening to this, what might a potential client look like? A new client, these people that you call on from time to time. I don't know. Can you give me a little bit of a description of what they might look like, or why they might contact you?
I don't know, Thomas. What do you think? I got an idea. I mean, some of our customers that we've been calling on for years, I think, fairly large companies that really haven't had that much exposure to plastics.
Okay.
And their product line could use a lot of plastics, but they haven't really had anybody help them, show them what plastics can do for their product line.
Interesting.
So we're making some real good headway with large companies that are partnering up with us, because we have the knowledge of all kinds of different product lines or different solutions that we've come up with for existing customers that we can relate to their product line.
Okay.
And then again, we give them examples of why they might want to change, or we give them suggestions on how they should design their part so it could be done efficiently in plastics and try to keep your tooling costs down.
Right.
And that, I think we've made great strides in large companies, and now Matt and I can't even keep track of all the engineers from these large companies calling us on wanting us to look at this project or that project. We have a
Sure.
list of these engineers that we got to try to keep track of, because it's a large company, obviously, with probably 2,000-3,000 people. So
Dang.
you got a couple hundred engineers that are looking for assistance.
Yeah.
And they just really haven't had anybody help them, or if they've had experience in the past with plastics, it may have not been a pleasant experience.
Oh, sure.
The problem, the parts weren't designed properly, the tool wasn't built
Yeah.
properly.
Bad
So
taste in their mouth.
yeah, so we've overcome that, and then we developed that relationship with them, and we're a partner.
Good.
And that's what we're looking for, is to be a long-term partner.
Yeah.
To our customers.
I think where we really are successful is, we get involved at the design stage. We're trying to work with our customers' engineering. So if you can get in with engineering, then you internally win purchasing, because engineering is on your side.
Sure.
If we're just quoting parts for cost, well, anybody can do that.
Sure.
Where we come in and where we leverage Paul's experience, Matt's experiences, really helping the customer design the part to be molded. That's how we've won a lot of business.
Yeah, and that's
providing that solution.
right. We want to be in the brainstorming sessions
Early
with
on.
our customers, right?
Yeah.
Even if they don't think it's going to be plastic, or if it is going to be plastic, it works really good if I get involved with those meetings. I travel quite a bit and get involved with those. Well, in the last year, we do a lot of Zoom or team meetings.
Oh, sure.
But we have, groups of engineers, they're brainstorming, and, Matt and I are just sitting back, and something will come up, and, we'll give them some suggestions, and then it'll kind of snowball from them. But at least we guide them
Yeah.
into, their design so it can be manufactured properly.
Okay.
We've had, a lot of customers that have used plastic designers,
Mm-hmm.
which are great, but a lot of designers don't have molding experience
Yeah,
or
the
mold
manufacturing.
building experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's example after example of parts that were designed by a design house. They spent 4 or 5 months designing a product.
Doesn't work.
Customer
Right.
brings me in to look at it, and I said, "Man, this is beautiful," but I said, you you can't mold that. That'll have to be blow molded. But why? Well, because you can't do this or that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So we spend a month later, redesign the part, and we're off and running. But
Yeah.
you know, people don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? So even designers that design in plastics say they know, but a lot of times they don't understand how molds have to be built.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just critical that, you know, we always tell our customers, if you're gonna look at plastics, get a competent molder or a competent. I say a competent molder because a competent molder knows how molds have to be built.
Sure.
Get somebody involved in your project just to make
Early.
sure you're going down the right path.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a great value add for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, and we're kind of particular on how we build our molds.
Mm-hmm.
We like to have a lot of control in the mold, so we have features in the mold that a lot of mold builders don't build.
Sure.
So we're kind of particular on how we like our molds built, so that they run, so the processor can process them properly.
Nice. All right. So if a potential client wants to get a hold of Aroplax and I don't know, get some ideas on how to make a mold or make their product bit better, maybe using some of your services, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Should they get a hold of you, Paul, or go to the website? Or what do you
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways. Yeah, they can get a hold of me or Matt directly,
think? Okay.
or call our front office and leave a message. We've got Tanner, on our website, a link to communicate with us. You can sign in and we'll respond. Tanner's looking at messages or that link. Is it a link, Tanner?
Yeah, there's an online chat board. There's our LinkedIn, Facebook, email,
Yeah.
sales@aroplax.com, you name it.
So if something comes in there, Tanner will forward it to Matt and I, and then we'll do a follow-up on it.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, Thomas and Paul, I appreciate your time. Thomas, I got full faith in you, man. I think you're
Thank
going to
you.
kill it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All
It's a
right.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.